And hello again, and here we are back in my garage, and I spent the afternoon working on my GPz project right here in front of me. And it's been quite a frustrating afternoon, because last week I did go and pick up the R6 wheels from P3 Tuning in Liverpool, and they've kindly fitted the tyres I had on another set of wheels. So with them coming back, today I've been trying to fit the wheels to the bike with the new tyres installed for the first time, and it has been pretty frustrating. I've got the front wheel in right now with the discs, but the spindle won't go in correctly. I just can't get it to go in the last sort of 10 millimeters, and I'm not sure why. The whole front end is R6, so in theory everything should just fit just fine, but guess what, it doesn't. And yeah, it's a bit frustrating. And what's making it more difficult is I'm working in quite a confined space here. You can see the bike here in front of me, and I've got this much room to work in, and I can't move it over here in the middle of the garage because I've got to move my other bike in here at the end of the day, so that's not ideal. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating. I can't quite see what's going on, so right now I've just given up with that particular problem. I mean, it's secure, it's secure, but it's not quite right yet. One good thing that's happened though is that, looking at the dyno coils I got last week, I did mention that I need to use some spacers to fit them correctly on the frame, and the good news is I've got some because I fitted the similar dyno coils to another Z650, and when I did, I realised I needed some spacers, and eBay being fantastic, you can find just about anything you want, including spacers. So I ordered the appropriate spacers with the correct length and so on, and of course I ordered 10, but I only needed 4, so I've got 6 left over, which I've now found. So these dyno coils can go on the frame when I get round to it, so that's great news. So anyway, that's sort of a bit frustrating, but anyway, now I need to move on to fit the rear wheel, and the first thing I've got to do is fit some new cush drive rubbers to the wheel and get everything together and try and get it in the back of the bike, which is often very awkward when you're doing it all on your own. So let's give it a go. And next, with new cush rubbers fitted, it's time to fit the sprocket carrier. So hopefully that'll fit just no problem. Hopefully. Let's have a look. Well, that's moved. These can be a bit fiddly at times, as you can see. Come on. Try again. That's better. Right, so that's on. Oh, and by the way, this sprocket from GPz is not a 530, and nor is it an older 630 size, because this is actually a 525 size. And the reason why I had to go for that was because I couldn't get the correct gearing I wanted with either a 530 or even a 630 chain setup, so that's why I'm using the 525. Also, these are the original nuts on here, the flange nuts. They're a bit corroded, a bit tired looking, so I have ordered some new ones, but they're not here yet. So now, let's try and get this wheel in the back of the bike. Well, it was all a bit awkward, but as you can see, I got there in the end. So there's no great problems here. Everything fits as it should. Now, I haven't yet torqued down all the bolts and fasteners to the final setting, but that can wait for another day. I'm just happy to have this rear wheel in place. Oh, and one more easy job I've done today is to fit these aftermarket stainless steel pillion handles. Now, I won't be carrying a pillion, but I have found these very handy, particularly when you're trying to push a bike backwards up a slight incline. So that's why they're on there. And hopefully, being stainless steel, they'll never rust. Right, so there's the coils on the bike. Now you can see why I needed these spacers, because without them, the coils would be pushed hard against this bracket here, which wouldn't do either of them any good. However, I'm not quite finished yet, because on this side we've got the screws to hold in the low tension wires, and if you look at the top one here, there's not a lot of space between the screw and this spacer, so I've got to do something about that. And so to insulate these spacers, I'm just going to use some shrink wrap. So we'll pop him on there like that, heat it up, and it should be good to go back on the bike. Like that. And so just in case there's any problems in the future, this bit of insulation should help a lot. Now I know these bolts are a bit too long, but I've got new ones on order, and when they arrive we'll change them out. And so next I've come to fit these rather nice gold spot calipers from an R6, but when I try to fit them, they don't fit. So I took out the pads and so on to see what's going on, and as I try to fit them, it looks like the lower mount doesn't align quite right. It won't go down enough. So having looked down here, it seems like the disc is hitting the inside of the caliper. So what on earth's going on? So I've gone off and checked what I've bought, and as far as I'm aware, all these parts are from a Yamaha R6 5SL, which is 2003 to 2004. But those discs should be 298 millimeters wide, but these aren't. These are 310, and it turns out in 2005 Yamaha made the discs bigger, and that's why I've got a problem. These discs are not for this front end. I mean, they fit fine, but they're not right. So what I've got to do is remove these discs and go and find the correct pair, the 298 pair. Now, it's very difficult to find a good used pair of discs these days. I mean, often they're worn out or they're warped, so I think at the moment I'm tempted to go and buy a new pair just to avoid any potential problems with damaged discs. So for the time being then, these lovely calipers will have to stay off the bike. Still, at least these new stainless steel sprocket nuts arrived okay and fitted no problem. And next, I feel this torque arm doesn't look quite right on the bike. It's a bit too fat, a bit too thick. So I'll take it back to Jeff's workshop, we'll put it on the lathe and slim it down a wee bit and get it back on the bike, and hopefully it should look a bit better. You know, sort of 45 degrees, whatever.
It's about 45, that, so... Now, because it's such a huge
length,
it can vibrate a little bit, so you can only
take very small.
Well,
oh, so you've got your power feed on.
Oh, not doing that by hand.
No. Right, so we've got the weight now for it to go all the way along there, and then go back again, and go back again, and go back again. And you can't quite get to that end, so you've got to turn it round.
Unless you make something to push it out.
No.
Then you're going to have to set your tip and you're stuck with your angle then.
Yes. Yeah. No, just...
Well, what I'll do is I'll turn it round.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you do that, you can always get like a tiny mark where you're trying to...
A bit of wet and dry, I'll sort it out.
A bit of wet and dry one.
Right, so we'll come back when that's all ready and I can take it home, and hopefully it should look a lot better. And now we're back home again, and as you can see, I've got this slimmed down torque rod back on the bike. It's not a massive difference, but I do think it looks a lot better. You might also notice that this fastener here, this bolt, is the wrong one. It doesn't match the one over here, and that's because this expensive stainless steel bolt that I was using is a bit too long. So I've just ordered a new one, and when it arrives we'll get it swapped over. And now it's a few days later, and these two new brake discs have arrived. So let's get them open and see what they're like. So these are aftermarket discs, and they actually come in two options. You can get a black centre, and they're about £75 each, or you can get a gold centre for about £79 each. So these are brand new. They're made by a company called Comet, which I assume are Chinese. But although there aren't many reviews of these particular discs, I have found a few people reviewing them on various owners of forums, and you know, the reviews were okay, said they were fine. And to be honest, for £79 I probably couldn't even get a good used stock disc, so can't really complain. And of course I went for gold because it matches the gold wheels. So let's get these on the bike and hopefully they'll fit fine. And so now we have the new discs on the wheel, and I'm pretty happy with the result. And in particular, the gold on the disc is quite a close match with the gold on the wheel. But you might also notice there's been a slight change, because these gold spots have been replaced by these blue spots. And that's because I felt these gold spots, the gold was quite a bit of a clash with the gold on the wheel, so I've changed them over. And by chance, by more luck than judgment, the blue of the blue spots is quite a close match with the blue of the candy apple blue on the paintwork, so that sort of works quite well. So next then, I can measure up for the new brake lines. And so to work out the correct length of the new brake lines I need, I'm using this very old Hell brake line. It's far too long, but I can use it to work out the routing and the length it needs to be to reach the master cylinder. Right, so the bike is on its wheels at last, thank God. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with those front brake discs from Comet, and the blue spots do match the paintwork quite well. But now I've got it on its wheels, I can sit in it for the first time and see how these new rear sets feel like on the bike, because they are a long way back. They are quite a long way back. So let's see for the first time. Oh, that's not too bad, that's not too bad. Yeah, I'm quite used to rear sets, so for me that doesn't feel too bad at all. These bars maybe could do with being a bit further forward, but I'll worry about that another day. Also, by the way, the struts, which are in place of the shocks, which I've not got yet, these are only about 300 millimeters long, and they're far too short. I think measuring things up, the rear shocks need to be about 350 mil in length, and that means I'm going to have to get a custom pair made, because for a Z650, the standard length's about 325 or 330, which is too short. And for a ZRX 1100 or 1200, they're about 365 or 375. I can't recall now. What I need is about 350. So I've got to go for sort of quite a custom set. So I would love to buy a custom pair of Maxton remote reservoir shocks, but at £1,200 plus VAT, they could be a bit outside the budget for this bike. Another option is to go for a pair of Hagons, because Hagon will make a custom pair of shocks for you. I know Hagons can have a bit of a poor reputation for cheap and cheerful, but they make a huge range of models, including, I think it's called a Nitro shocks for the back, and they're fully stainless steel, which is pretty cool. Never go rusty, and you can choose the length and the spring rate and even the colour of the anodised parts. So I've got those Nitro shocks on my Guzzi and also in there on my Norley, and I'm pretty happy with them. So I think maybe that is an option, and they're much cheaper. I think they're about $390, something like that. Another option is to go for, let's see, K-Tech will make you some custom shocks, as will Nitron, but those prices are getting up over £1,000, which I think is too much. I also have an option of buying some simpler Maxton shocks. They do some which are not remote reservoir, just basic shocks. I mean, they're still amazing, but even they are about £700, which may be a bit outside the budget, as I say, for this bike. So I've got to decide all that at some future date. So next then, I have just measured up and ordered the new brake lines from Hell, so they'll be here in a week or two, so I'll get that sorted out. And after that, I've got to knuckle down and finish the engine. It's about half finished now, and it's tucked away somewhere. It's difficult for me to work on, so yeah, that's why it's been left and left and left. But I will have to knuckle down and be brave and finish off the engine. So yeah, I think we'll cover that in the next video. But for now then, I think that's about it for this week. And so thanks for watching, and cheers.